Welcome back to Retake the Week. It's been another week of Counter-Strike, so we've got to take a good long look at it and figure out how's been going on. Not too much in terms of big news, but there's been finally a return to Tier 1 Counter-Strike, as well as a couple little things to bring up. More importantly, though, we have the member Q&A at the end of this one. We've got a couple of really interesting questions that we're going to try and discuss in a bit of detail, because they pretty much deserve it. They're actually good questions, which is, well, very nice to start off the monthly tradition with. But first, of course, we've got to say good morning to Quacke. How you been? How much Counter-Strike have you watched this week?
Quite a bit. I've kept an eye on NIP and Gamer Leader mostly in this start of the Tier 1 circuit, if you can say that. But also a bunch of other Swedish teams in other events. Watched some European Pro League, of course, writing about Godsent and them, so Alliance as well. So it's been a good week of Counter-Strike, I feel like. Blast Groups was fun. I was looking forward to Blast Groups, and I think it kind of delivered. What do you think? What do you think about this event?
It's been a bit up and down. So for me, the biggest thing I've been looking forward to this year in Counter-Strike is Donk. I made that bold prediction. I said he'd be a top 3 player of this year. And honestly, this was a layup, honestly. Spirit, they get into Blast Spring groups. They're supposed to have... It's not a free group. Let's be polite. Let's be nice. But I thought they'd smash it. I thought, look, you look at the form they were playing with, look at the players. They could easily smash through this group and make it straight to the London Finals. And that's a massive leg up in terms of rankings, in terms of Donk's overall stature. But instead, we've got 2 players with visa issues, and Spirit end up, well, going out last, because what are you going to do? You don't have your best player and a really good other one. It's going to be a big issue. So I was disappointed in that front. But other than that, there was a fair bit of really good Counter-Strike played. Not everyone did, but teams like... we'll get into all the teams from each group that we have to highlight, but there was a lot higher level of Counter-Strike played than I think most people expected coming out the break, and especially with the way things looked at the end of last year. So yeah, interesting. A lot of new teams to talk about. Why don't we start with Group A? And I think the big conversation here is, oh god, our notes are not in the right order.
Yes.
is Falcons, because they didn't win the group, and they were also... Well, there's a lot of big stories kind of in this group. We've got the number 1 team of the last year, who are number 1 team coming into this. You have the new Astralis Super Team. You do also have this OG lineup trying to make something work. They've been smashing together lineups for a while now with very little success. But most importantly, yeah, Falcons, a big move, a big change. Did you get to catch any of their games?
A bit. I watched a bit out of the Falcons Vitality game.
Oh yeah,
I think it was pretty damn exciting when Falcons actually won the first map, and if I remember correctly, there was a pretty close first half in the second map as well. So it sort of looked like, holy shit, this could genuinely be a 2-0. It was 5-7, so that's doable. But then, Vitality pulled through, of course. I think it was a good game. I think Sun Pius has really impressed this event, which I think is somewhat expected. But
yeah.
I mean, out of the 3 players you expect to be heavy hitters on this team, Sun Pius is the only one who has some familiarity with the core, like with Snappy and Madden. So, I guess it makes sense that he's the first one to get up to speed, so to speak. I think long term, I think we need to see some more to actually draw any conclusions out of Falcons. I think this looked like a stable team. I think this is a team that can definitely do things. I think this is a team that could make it to the major to begin with. They could have a decent result at the major. Just based on what we've seen so far. But in terms of this event, I think it's a bit early to judge them as a whole, in my opinion. But you obviously have a lot more of an analytical eye than I do, so maybe you've seen something that would say something else.
What I've seen so far is... Yeah, it's a bit up and down. It's... Obviously, losing the opening series to Astralis in not very flattering fashion isn't great. I get it. After map 1, or was it after both maps? I can't remember which one. You got Snappy in the interview saying, yeah, our goal's the major. Our goal's the major. We've had 8 days prac. Our goal's the major. And I get it. But at the same time, I did want to see, a little more pep. Thankfully, they crushed OG. So they've created a tier of separation there. We're not just a team who have the right to be here. We're a team who could actually play at this level. OG, I'm sorry, get stomped. So they crushed OG. And then the final series against Vitality, after that Nuke game, not only was it fantastically called and typically snappy, like that was an amazing game of Nuke. I know he's done it in the past with other teams. I didn't expect him to be so beautiful here, just immediately with all these new pieces to make everything work. Magus popping off, which was probably a little bit to do with just Magus being one of the greats, and Boros having an amazing map, which he did in every map they pretty much won this event. Like if they win a map, Boros was popping up. That was kind of the theme of it. And we'll get into some of his downsides in the other maps, but that was a great first map. They then lose 2 straight. Again, both the first halves looked okay, kind of okay. You're in there, but 6T rounds on Anubis, not great when you actually think about it in that context. And all in all, a bit sloppy when you got to the maps they weren't super prepared on. When they were playing opponents who were probably better prepared than them and who'd been together a little longer, yeah, they looked like they lacked a little bit of the cohesion in the team play. So, overall, there's potential. There's definitely potential. As you said, Sampai's played great. We got good games out of Magus. Boros had his highs. He had a couple maps where I thought he was his own worst enemy. But all in all, I think this Falcons roster, yeah, making the majors not unrealistic. Making a dent this year at the events they play, I think is not unrealistic either. They've got a definite chance to be a top team. It's just this event, they looked really behind in terms of their preparation. So hopefully they can get that sorted and we can see more of this team, because obviously, as a Boros guy, I want to see these guys succeed.
Yeah, you definitely do. We kept an eye on him for a while, and I think the stint on Monte. I mean, dude, he has his things. Like people talk about Boros in a certain way, enough to the point where Sonic mentioned it in an interview just the other week, or the other day, even. It's the attitude thing. It's this whole idea that he is not really quite ready for this, perhaps, but. Yeah, like that was probably true. Last year probably was, like as Sonic said, he needed to become more professional, and then he has done that. And if it's true that he's done that, and if it's true that this year is like prime Boros where he's ironed out the issues, then yeah, they're definitely gonna make a dent. But it's been cool to see them. Cool to see them.
All right, sorry, just had to throw my headset off. It ran out of charge mid-conversation. Love wireless headsets. Don't worry, mic's not attached. But yeah, I got most of that, so don't worry. Yeah, Boros is the big question mark. I think if part of the professionalism issues is going to be ironed out by him, well, it's going to, as a consequence of that being ironed out, maybe bring a little more consistency, like remove some of his bad maps. I think that'd be great long term. But I don't want it to be too much of a thing where, like, they try to tamper his ego. Like, no, you're not that guy. Because Boros, the way he plays, he needs to think he's that guy. Like, the way he takes fights, takes risks, he's willing to throw himself through a smoke for his team on a retake, do that sort of crazy stuff. I mean, I know he's doing it because he thinks he's going to kill everyone anyway, but at least it does create space by default. Like, it's coincidentally also the right thing to do in a lot of these scenarios. So if they get rid of that fire and that belief, I think that'll be an issue. But yeah, that was the big story of Group A. Realistically, Falcons, can they compete? I think long term, yes. Group B was one where we didn't want to just... Well, we didn't want to be here not talking about Spirit, essentially. So we're talking about Liquid, because they are the big name here. And they won their first 2 games. I mean, beating Spirit, who have a coach standing in, and Baz, who's not a terrible player, but just isn't donk.
Hallie, I looked into this. As far as I can tell, Hallie never played professional Counter-Strike. He played on mixes in 2013, and then no maps for 5 years, and since then he's only played for fun or in like one-off stand instance. This was doomed from the start. I'm not surprised.
It really was. So we weren't expecting much, and we didn't get much. So that's pretty much all what you can expect. Like, if you don't think they're going to win and they're playing with a coach and other stand-in, it's not great. The fact they won a map was a bit concerning in my eyes. If I'm Liquid, I would expect a 2-0 a coach and a stand-in, but it's all good. They got past it. They then beat Game Legion, who, well, didn't spend the last month prepping for them, so they beat them, which is unsurprising if you're me, because I'm tired of this Game Legion roster. And they then lost to FaZe 2-0. Sure. I didn't watch that game, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't focused on that game at all. But I watched some of the other ones and I thought, this is honestly best case scenario when you think about all the things coming into this with Skulls, the question marks. How does he fit in? Can he be something better than Rainwaker was? And I think overall, if you look at the way he's been used and the way he's performed, yeah, he has been. That's the biggest weak point everyone pointed out. Obviously, Twist has been phenomenal. Naf has been phenomenal. We knew these guys would be amazing. But Skull's not shitting the bed, essential. So yeah, we love to see it.
Yeah, I think it's a good team. Losing to FaZe, I mean, you would lose to FaZe, especially. I think FaZe are another team worthy of talking about in this group, because they played very well. Frozen has integrated very well. He's a top player for the team. So losing to FaZe, I don't think is particularly big of a loss. Making quick work of Gaming Legion, I think that's a big. I mean, as you said, they didn't prep for it. Like they obviously didn't prep for them very well, Gamer Legion. But
yeah,
it's also like that's still a 1-up over what FaZe could do. FaZe won 4 maps and lost. Sorry, FaZe won 2 maps against the Gamer Legion and lost 3. Liquid won 2 and lost 0. So like that's still a 1-up. And I mean,
okay.
No, I mean, it's got to come for something, like pound for pound. I could talk about Gamer Legion as well, but I won't.
It's like going to be a new column, Quacke, pound for pound rankings.
And then, making like that Spirit game got close, and I feel like in a worse looking Liquid team, for example, any of the previous 4 rosters, that could have genuinely been a loss, like a big choke.
Yeah.
But it's a good, especially when they're down 3-9 on the final map as well, and they just clean out that final half.
Yeah,
that's pretty massive.
That's some pretty big Cadian energy right there. That's
yeah, but that's like one of those games where if you didn't know what the roster was, if you didn't know anything about this team, you just saw Liquid are playing against Spirit and they are at 1-1 and they are down on the final map. You're like, this is over. This is a Liquid choke. Like this. Yeah, that's the what this brand is known for. So not making that happen, that's like a big. I think that's a big W. I mean, the final test, I guess, is if they can make it through to finals actually later today against G2.
Yeah, they've got to play G2 to do that, so I'll be interested.
Also going to be a tall order. Segueing into the next group, perhaps.
It does.
They are our main talking point, but I think Monacy deserves a shout on G2 because he has just absolutely cleaned house. He's 145 in 9 maps at this point.
Yeah, he's been sensational. He really has.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat line in 2024. Monacy has played 15 maps with the G2, and he has been by far the top-rated player in 11 of them, which is kind of huge when you're playing with Nico.
Yeah, Nico hasn't looked too brilliant in CS2, but man, Monacy has looked amazing. That's all that matters, really. He did absolutely stat pad against NIP, who played bot Counter-Strike, I want to say. They looked horrendous at times. But no, he was really good against Na'Vi, both games they played against them. So I'm really impressed with him. Sure, they need something more, because they're clearly not quite there yet, G2. Like, I've seen some people immediately start taking the position that cutting JKS for Nexa is like the worst move, and I'm like, I don't think that's really that important, the JKS instead of Nexa in this sort of scenario. Like, I don't think Nexa's fragging is the big problem. I think it's just they didn't look confident. I think that's the way I feel about it. It might be a classic case of the G2 actually taking a holiday over the holiday period. Unlike most teams, I think they are the roster that actually does like to have a little rest. So perhaps it's a case of rustiness coming in.
But if you want to point a finger at the player, their lurker is their worst rated player of the event right now, and I'm talking about Hunter in that case. Yeah. So if you want to point a finger at anyone, it's him rather than Nexa.
I mean, Hooksy's played better than him in subs in a lot of series. And that's crazy. That's crazy.
Hooksy, when I was watching him, I'm pretty much sure he was just Bogdan's Law, but he was putting in some nasty op frags. Yeah.
I wouldn't put too much stock in that side of it. But...
No. Just good on you, Hooksy.
Yeah, Hooksy didn't look terrible. He's still clearly, if you watch him mechanically, he's not a fragger, but he actually got his numbers, and Hunter really didn't. So that's something you need to worry about a little bit, I think. But no, more importantly, let's fuck G2. Let's talk about the team we actually wanted to talk about here before we become another one of those shows, like the American basketball shows that only talk about the Lakers. Like, let's talk about someone who's actually good and not just someone who's a big name. Na'Vi played their best Counter-Strike in years, and I mean literally years. We haven't seen this in a while. I mean, sure, they came international, and that's kind of where everything shut the bed. But to be honest, this is amazing.
Yeah. Somehow Alexi B has pulled out a decent team for once in his career, or maybe for the second time in his career.
He's finished top 4 in blast groups. Let's not give him too much credit yet. Let's not.
Well, it's a great team. It's a great team. Like if you look at it so far. Yeah.
Also, just gonna wind that back. It feels like it's been years since Na'Vi were not an international roster. It's actually been like 7 months that they've been international, and to me that feels so wrong because I feel like I've been painfully tortured by this international lineup for so much longer than this.
Yeah, but they managed to get something working. I mean, Bit is the guy who we're talking about. He's the guy who, for whatever fucking reason, is rumored to leave. Like,
meme it up. Just meme it up. Let's just meme it up and move on. I don't think it's a meme. Let's ignore it for now because we don't have a rumor that I think is worth a damn.
I'll tell you what. If you have a legitimate rumor, DM me on Twitter because I haven't heard anything legitimate. I've just seen like JL making jokes on Twitter, and then someone on HLTV asked about it in an interview, and then it's headline worthy. I don't know. I feel like it's. I don't know if this, but that's the thing. I don't know if it's real. I feel like are we just grasping for talking points at this point? But
a little bit. I mean, JL's Twitter is quite unserious. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But like people were grasping for. Is this a Bit and Simple moving to Cloud9 and reforming the good Na'Vi lineup on Cloud9? Is that what's happening after the major or something like that? And like, I don't know. Bit popped off. That was great. Wonderful. He works wonderfully. Imma actually had good games, good ratings. He had that one big clutch round that people talked about. But like he played a good game. JL played a good game. And Alexi B deserves some credit for it. So it's been a good event for Na'Vi. They look good. They're through to finals. Despite what Alexi B said on Twitter, I noted this when we were chatting in the beginning. His tweet for like we qualified for finals. It wasn't really like confidence inspiring. I felt like because he just said we have great form, but it's going to be hard to keep this up. But we will do our best. Yeah, it's not really that like how Counter-Strike players usually are. They just post like I'm back or something like that. Like I never left. It's not that sort of thing. It's just
alive. Yeah. No, I mean this is a really weird thing to see. I mean we've still got the trademarks of a Alexi B team. Alexi B does 800 nade damage a map, and yeah, but for once it actually matters and they win. Because in the past, it was absolutely meaningless. I remember every time OG lost a series, it was like, look at Alexi B's nade damage. He's a genius. Like, I don't care if he got 1 million nade damage if he didn't win the game. But actually here it mattered, so thank the heavens. Turns out people shooting heads was more important than utility. Who'd have thunk it? But it was pretty impressive to watch them play. I think Imma, he wasn't great in the final series. In the first 2, I felt like he had maps where he looked like an actual star player again. He looked like he did when he was carrying Game of Legion to relevance the first time. So I think, yeah, really impressive from the entire team. I wasn't expecting them to turn around the fragging this much. Like I was expecting, like even JL had good maps, wonderful. He didn't have the most impact, wonderful, but he played good, solid Counter-Strike and got his frags when he needed to. So, yeah, this is the best version of Na'Vi with Alexi B that we've ever seen. Hopefully they maintain it, because it'd be nice to see Alexi B have another good team and not be a fraud. So far so good. This has been a great event for them, and let's see if they can maintain it. Believe it, Katowice. So that's Group C. Now Group D was a bit of a weird one coming in, because we had new rosters with no AWPers, 2 Banana Cup champions. Like, it was a really weird group to think about. But overall, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm happy with how it's gone through. Virtus Pro, straight through in first place, looking dominant. Flit looked amazing. Pretty much everything you want. I mean, James called a good game, played a good game, and he got his players in the right scenarios. That's what we wanted to see. Big then making it out of second place. My underdog pick from the latest episode of the Double Swing. That's amazing. I was so happy to see Big play this way. Like, their opening 2-0 loss to Virtus Pro made me think, oh, crap. Oh, crap. I've hitched my my wagon to a pony with no legs. Like, this is an actual problem. But no, they then beat Heroic. I'm like, alright, cool. Heroic look like whipping boys, but cool. And then they beat Cloud9 2-0. I was like, oh, god. Okay. Again, a team without an AWPer, but a team that looked really dangerous initially with the Electronic popping off and Axar looking solid, Perfecto being the best support player in the world. I thought, oh crap, okay. They beat them. Maybe they got a chance against VP. They didn't. But at least they're in the play-in, basically, to make it through. They've still got one more chance to make it out. And I'm really happy with the way this group went down. But the big talking point I believe we wrote down has to do a bit more with Cloud9 than it does with Big. So I'm going to let you talk about this for a bit. Where do you think Cloud9 are headed after this?
It's such a weird team for me because we've talked. Apparently they seem committed to this no op meta thing, which has been a talking point for years. Because that was what Malek was talking about when Kenny S left and Nico was supposed to be opping, and it was like, we don't really need an opper in 2021. And then now they're doing it again, and maybe you can actually do it now because the op is nerfed, supposedly.
Well, hold on, let me check. Every team that made it through. No, there's an AWPer right there. Yeah, that's an AWPer. Oh, that Brokey guy doesn't do much with it, but that's an AWPer. He had a pretty bad event. Zaiwu. I've seen him every now and then with this weird round thing on his gun. I think that's an AWPer as well, so perhaps they're completely fucking wrong.
In fairness, Zaiwu out of like the top oppers gets the least op KPR. Like he by quite some margin. He doesn't op too much, to be honest.
Yeah, because he also gets everything. He just kills everyone with everything. That's a bit of an issue.
It feels like a super weird experiment, and maybe it's working, maybe it's not. I'm not sure. I'm not even quite sure what Boomage is doing here. I like Boomage. Why is he here? Why is Hobbit still here? Hobbit was a huge problem for all of last year because he was clashing with Electronic. Like, him and Electronic were not working together. Why is he still here? Yeah. Can you cut him? Put anyone else in? Maybe if you cut him, Shiro could have stayed. Who knows? Like, it's a weird lineup. It's a very weird lineup. Good job beating Heroic. I feel like just the feeling of this Cloud9 lineup is that it's pointless. It feels temporary. Like, this is not a team that they...
Yeah.
Does anyone in the Cloud9 project see this team sticking together as it is for the next 2 years? Because if you don't, then why are they doing this? Like,
yeah, no one does believe in this. There's no one who's on that team thinking this is it. This is the end goal. This is what we wanted. A bunch of okay rifle play, let's be honest, from guys who shouldn't be on the roster, and Electronic and Perfecto looking good. Like, that's not what anyone wanted. So I do expect this roster to change. I do expect... I mean, I still consider this the simple waiting room. I don't know if I called it that on either Retake the Week or Double Swing last week, and I still believe that's to be entirely true. We're not actually here to watch this team play. We're here waiting for this team to make another move. I hope the move is to cut Hobbit for simple. That's what I'm feeling. But if Boomich isn't calling, I don't see the point of having him in here either. So it's an odd situation. I hope they sort it out and make the necessary improvements, because
is he officially not calling now?
I don't know who's officially calling on this team. I lost track after the third change.
It is Boomage, but it was like for that entire first month and a half of Boomage being on the team, they were asked like several times who's calling, and they just said no comment. Like, we have no idea. So, but it does seem like Boomage is the official captain right now. I'm looking at their Liquipedia.
Yeah, he's the official captain. So, okay, if he's on the roster for that, keep him there, cut Hobbit. But you can't make this work like this. You need an AWPer. You need a good one.
Yeah.
This roster
it feels really weird when Hobbit is effectively playing this, like, I mean, if he doesn't work in... He wants Electronics positions. He doesn't work in not playing Electronics positions. So effectively, I think it's safe to say that he's like more of a supportive element at this point. But you already have Perfecto, who's apparently outperforming him, and then you have Boomage, who is just Boomage. And right now, Axile is suffering for it, which is like, what?
Yeah, he has had some good maps here and there, but he's really overall not the same guy, and that's a big issue they have to sort out. Because if he's on the roster doing nothing, again, you've got another slot you could fill in with someone, who could play a role differently, who can fill in a little better than he does.
Yeah.
Because, he's clearly not adjusted that well to the post-Gambit players Cloud9 era. So
yeah. Was it just like a best friend thing with Shiro, do you think?
No, I don't know. I think maybe he just really liked the way Nafany called.
Yeah, I heard them talk a lot about like Shiro did this like content things. Shiro did one content thing with like Cloud9 where he spoke in English. I get why he didn't play international, and continually he just mentioned Exile. Like, who's your best friend? Exile. Who's your best teammate? Exile. Like they like each other. So I'm wondering if maybe he suffered for this, like and like if maybe this like a Hunter Jacks kind of thing, which where he just needs, he's just distraught about his best friend leaving the team and just enters a deep depression because of it, and will never perform again.
I mean, it could be. We've seen Hunter play well without Jax, but also this scenario is 2 stars, not a star and a support. But I think that's wraps up Blast. There's some games on today to decide who actually makes it out. Hopefully, in my case, Big beat Astralis, and then G2 Liquid. I hope G2 win as well, because those are 2 of my picks from the double swing. I really need them to win those games. Moving on, the Eternal Shuffle. Oh, first one is you've got some big opinions about this. I really didn't when I saw this in the notes. Rugger has been signed by Astralis. Take it away.
I don't have big opinions. The opinion I have is just I feel like Astralis are swapping coaches like something you swap very frequently. Well, I couldn't think of an analogy. It seems like they're really unable to plug the Sonic-shaped hole in their team, because I feel like they've been moving coaches between their main team and their academy team and their assistant coach slot, and then they bring in a new coach and boot the old one, and then they move him down to the academy team, swap it around. Like, post-Sonic, who are the coaches for Australia right now? They brought in Ave, they brought in Trace, they brought in Kasle.
I mean, the current coach is someone I've never heard of.
Ronick, he was their assistant coach. Ronick is out of Astralis Talent. And then
he's 23. Okay, yeah.
Yes, and then so he was with Astralis Talent, and then he coached Astralis Talent, and then he was the main team's assistant coach, and now he's the interim coach until Rugger joins at the end of his contract in March.
April 1st is the official date. Like the fuck.
Oh, sorry.
That's post Copenhagen major. Like.
Yeah, it might have been April. At some point. Rugger is coming in. I think they're swapping coaches like left, right, and center. They've had some temporary coaches in between there as well. I don't even remember all of them. And then you had Hunden officially being something else, but like he was the coach. And who else even was there? There were academy coaches who were moving up to the main team. I don't even know who these people are. Trace and Ave were both with the academy team at one point. Moddy coached the academy team. Kasle coached the academy team. Fucking Cajun B coached the academy team. What the fuck?
Yeah, this seems like a weird carousel of coaching.
I'm just wondering, what is the problem with picking a coach and sticking with them? Because are these people?
Blame?
Yeah, but then also, are these coaches even good coaches? Are they just bad coaches? They haven't done shit afterwards or before. Like Ave had the same like 1.6 greatness as Sonic, and that was it. And Trace had the same 1.6 greatness as Sonic, or maybe Source. I wouldn't know. You know about this stuff. They were MTW, and they did great, and then they did nothing, and then they came in and coached Astralis. They did nothing, and then they left Astralis. They did nothing. I mean, Trace is with Copenhagen Wolves now. Kasle is going to do nothing. Ave is going to do nothing. All of these people are going to do nothing. I think Rugga is poor. I don't see how someone who has worked with OG since 2019 gets a vote of confidence from Astralis. Why exactly does that happen? It's not strong opinions, because I couldn't care less about who coaches Astralis. It's just very weird to me that they keep trading these people. So I don't have any faith in Rugga coaching Astralis. If this project, in my opinion, on paper, this Astralis project has a lot of problems, and I don't think Rugga is the one who is going to come in there and fix them.
Okay.
Nor Kasle, nor Ave, nor Trace, nor Moddy, nor Cajun B, nor Alex som fan, or whoever the fuck is coaching Astralis Talent right now. So what the fuck are they gonna do? Like Hunden couldn't do it, I don't think. So it's just weird to me, very weird.
I got a weird feeling this is a shadow puppet type scenario where people are being brought in just to be the face of the coach position, while someone else is actually the coach of this team. Like a weird scenario like that, where someone else is actually deciding how this team plays. If you can rotate through coaches at this extreme rate, like surely you've got another plan in mind and something else is going on. Otherwise, you're just doing it for the shits and gigs, really. So that's enough about Astralis, though. The less we talk about them, the better. Let's talk about Xiphon. Benched on Sprout and rumoured pretty strongly to be going to TSM to fill out their 5th spot, making their roster a bit weird, but overall better than it was. I mean, we've gone from their initial signings, which was Cypher, Jax, then Inters, Modo, Valde. Inters, Modo, and Valde are still there, but now they've added Joel and potentially Xiphon, who are younger, more skilled than Jax. Neither one of them is necessarily younger than Cypher, but again, I think Cypher's counted the same sort of category as young players. I think they're just better for the positions they need, and it makes more sense for the roster construction. But all in all, the ceiling on this roster, considering what I've seen from Valde's calling, it's going to be highly dependent on how impactful these 2 latest signings can be. Because I don't think Inters moves the needle. Modo's been solid. To be fair to him, he's been solid. But if Joel and Xiphon don't frag out, I think this roster's very much stuck in the online circuit, and I don't think it makes much of a dent elsewhere.
No, I think that it could be a good move. Xiphon isn't exactly doing anything on the current Sprout lineup.
No.
I'm not sure what they're doing. Zedjot is cool, but like the rest, it's downgrades. I think the days of Sprout being a talent factory, except for this Zedjot guy, is over. So it could be a cool move. It's weird role for role, I guess, but also maybe it could work.
Paper, but the roles were never properly implemented into this team. Like the way we think about how the roles of the players should have been doesn't really line up with how they were playing. So I think that's the big disparity.
Yeah, so then maybe it's an improvement in the end anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to comment on it. I think it's a decent move. Xiphon is a good player. I think he'll do good enough anywhere he is. It's still really early in Xiphon's career.
We often forget because we've heard so much about him through the Copenhagen Flames lineup and then his stand-ins with Heroic. Like people feel like they've seen more of him than they actually have. I think there's still a lot to see.
He's got time to fuck around on TSM for another year, and maybe prove himself in a big team, because this would be his first big team if we're talking about stature of the org. I mean, they're not really worthy of that status anymore, but Copenhagen Flames, if you do well on Copenhagen Flames, you're a good tier 2 player. If you do good on Sprout, you're a good tier 2 player. But if you do good on TSM, there's something that's different about that. Even if the team is fucking awful, even if the org is fucking awful, there's still some status with it. If you do well on a team with Valde and fucking Inters, tier 1 players, if you do well there, that's pretty good. That's a good vote of confidence for his future. So it could be a good move. I don't have any faith. They will probably hardly make playoffs in CCTs, but if he can do well, that's at least building for something in the future.
I mean, I've looked at they've played a couple games now on actual HLTV, because before then we could only watch them really play open qualifier games, and it wasn't the best sample. But it seems to be this horrible situation where TSM are managing to lose series to Godsent, for example, despite Joel literally doing everything. There seems to be very little in terms of game plan they can rely on. There is very little in terms of other fragging they can rely on currently in this roster. I mean, yeah, if you look at specifically that Godsent series, which I'm referring to, it's Joel dropping simple numbers, then Inters, and then the stand-in Quirts, and everyone else just not really doing a whole lot of anything. So you're wondering, what inspires faith in this roster? is just more fragging going to sort out the absolute lack of structure and calling? Or is this a scenario where we're just doing a bunch of shit until we can somehow secure an IGL signing? Maybe this entire time they've just been trying to figure out who they can bring in to actually make this roster tick. And in the meantime, they're like, might as well run some trials for some star fraggers. Like, hey, if we can give an IGL, hey, you get to play with Joel. Look at these stats. Maybe that's a selling point. So I don't know what TSM are actually going for. My guess is they're just floundering. They're just randomly doing shit like they tend to. And this is going to peter out. So hopefully for Zyphon's sake, he can put himself, in the best possible light. He can play his roles properly, get some good numbers, and then maybe we can see changes in the future. But yeah, it's hard to have much confidence in this TSM roster given the way they've played and the way they've been run in the past.
Yep.
But all right, final roster move of the Eternal Shuffle, and this is a big one. This is huge, guys. Aurora,
I can't wait to hear what it is. I'm so excited.
Aurora cut Celta. All right, next.
Okay.
Prospect of the week.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first because I've been watching a lot of Asian Counter-Strike, and my pick is kind of like a double pick because I've picked one guy, Senzu, who is a 17-year-old playing on the Mongols with Blitz. He's put up amazing numbers. I've watched the games. He's actually been really impressive. Played a great game. And the reason I called this a double pick is because you kind of can't talk about young Mongolians playing well under Blitz without giving Blitz a whole bunch of credit. He just pulls these guys out of nowhere. Seemingly. He was on NKT playing pretty meh. He was impactful in NKT in terms of the impact stat. But all in all, that team was never very successful, and you're kind of limited by how much your team can do at the end of the day. But he's been brought into this roster. He's playing similar positions, similar spots. He's getting his sort of fights, and he's winning them all. And the Mongols are still winning. So he can keep signing. Blitz and Mara, the coach IGL combo of this team, can keep signing absolutely fucking anyone, it seems, and just keep winning. Sure, it's a bit worrying that they can't really translate it into too much success internationally. But you've got to remember, a lot of the guys they're signing and trying to make work are teenagers. Blitz is 21. I mean, Mongolian CS 2025 might be the thing to watch, because if they're playing this level, we've seen positive things from the Huns, with Yami, who's obviously like a child, and Score. We've seen some stuff from them.
He's an experienced child.
Yeah, I guess. But there's something to say about the Mongolian scene, and I think Senzu deserves a highlight because, yeah, he played phenomenally in their matches. They didn't make it to IM Chengdu. I believe they lost to Tyloo in the final game.
4 overtimes, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. But they played a really good game, and Senzu was a huge part of that. So I want to highlight him, and partially to highlight his own skill, but also to talk about, my god, Blitz and Mara keep doing it. They just keep on doing it.
Yeah, they're currently in the grand final of Extremes LAN 2023, so they were actually on LAN while doing this, were they? My god.
Well, they're at yeah.
Yeah, so they were at the LAN and they were playing the Chengdu qualifier in the middle of it. Yeah, good on them. You mentioned this guy before in one of the previous episodes, one of the first episodes even. I still don't know anything about him. He looks like a very cool guy. But
Senzu?
Yeah, Senzu.
Okay. I don't remember mentioning him.
I think you did.
I've talked about other Mongolians, I think, but I don't think I've talked about Senzu specifically.
I think you picked him as Prospect of the Week in one of the first episodes.
What's a different Mongolian?
Oh, am I being racist right now?
Who knows? But yeah.
Who knows?
They're all the same. No.
No, but he's got the numbers. Like he shows up in the stats sheet. Shows up on my radar because of that. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I remember thinking the Mongols / IHC were just dead because I thought, oh, they lost Annihilation, they lost Score. There's no way they're gonna find people to replace those two, and then they brought in 910.
Yeah, and, what a name.
And Mezinho, and I just read that HTV headline and I felt, what is this? It's over. RIP Mongolian CS, you will be missed. And then they're just doing stuff. Still, they're the 20th best team in the world according to the ranking, which is kind of crazy. I mean, are they? Yeah, they're missing out on Chengdu, unfortunately. I feel like what they are missing out on right now is LANs.
Yeah, the problem is, like, I am Chengdu with these things. There's like one spot.
Yep.
There's one spot for you to qualify organically for, and they have this tendency of always beating the Chinese teams when it comes to like RMRs and stuff, but struggling to beat them when it comes to these sorts of events in terms of the qualifiers. Yep. So you don't see them enough throughout the year.
Yep.
But they're definitely like, we need more events that are like the top 4 Asian teams, 4 teams from like the bottom half of the top 10. Now we can have a competition. Now we can have a real event. We can get some real like talking points. We can understand what the level of these teams actually is. Because one of them qualifying for groups each time, kind of an issue.
And then losing in groups after maybe 1 or 2 upset wins. They
get those upset wins. Is what I'm saying. Like, and they do it every time. But
that's impressive.
You need more.
I wonder where does Sensu go from here. What is his career trajectory going to be? Because I wonder. It doesn't feel real in a weird sense for like one of the Mongols guys to move on to like greatness.
Well, the team has to be great. If the team moves on and becomes great, then you'll find out more. But then these players are not going to magically transfer to different like international rosters.
No, I'm thinking, would someone scout them and sign them? Because there was a rumor that Bleed were looking at Asian players and Annihilation. I heard. I think the rumor was completely unfounded in the end, but like that was exciting because it was like an Asian org and they were making like this mixed European Asian investment, and I was like, all right, I'll work with this. We didn't get that. We got a European roster, but I wonder if there's because we have all of these players right now where like I wonder if you could go for more of these mixed projects out of like
I just struggle with the idea of like these. The problem is Mongolian players. I've yet to hear one speak good English, and they speak great Mongolian, to be fair to them. But that's not really that important when you talk about making an international roster. So I don't know if I was an international team and I wanted, for example, to just build a roster that just works, and I know, for example, if for some reason it was a known quantity that Blitz and Mara could speak very good English, I would have signed them a year ago. The fact that no one has, it's either they're doing a Tabson, or more likely they don't have the facilities for that big man. Like they just don't have the ability to go play international Counter-Strike. So yeah, that's pretty much it for them. Let's talk about your prospect. Let's talk about this guy who, we've technically both picked someone from Asian CS.
Yes, somewhat similar vein. I picked Fuzi, also someone who has lit up the stat sheets in Asia. I think this is sort of what do we expect when we see like European players of decent experience move to Asia. You expect they are gonna wreck. And sometimes they just don't. I feel like so far we haven't seen too much of that, but we also haven't seen too many maps in general. So this past 2 weeks, Rare Atom have been playing quite a few maps. Rare Atom is one of those exciting mixed projects on paper, I feel like, because they have this sort of solid European foundation of like Twista, and then they brought in 2 like solid European players, sort of underrated in Europe, but like solid, and a pretty good sort of Chinese core. So they really committed to this. I think Twista is the coach, of course, but I think they also brought in someone else as a manager, also a Finnish guy out of ENS. It might have been Natu or something. It's a cool project, and it seems to actually be paying dividends right now because Fuzi's stats this week are kind of crazy. Like it's
for his entire time with Rare Atom, he's been putting up numbers.
Yes, but this week he's sort of ramped up with more maps. He's played 6 maps. He's 1.48 after beating decent teams, to be honest. They like Wings Up is not the worst team in China. Like Eruption and Atox are not the worst teams in Mongolia, and he didn't even win all the maps. He just put up numbers, which is maybe not what you want to see ideally, but like it's yeah, it's not like he's just walking over them and getting stats because of that. He's walking over them in the sense that he's getting great numbers on his own. So I don't know. It's sort of showing that Fuzi maybe always was a pretty good AWPer. Just obviously he's in a different layer of competition right now. But it's sort of reinforcing the belief that let's move this guy up a notch and see what he does. And I think that was sort of the point of moving to Asia. Is like I want playtime. I want to show what I can do in like a scene where, like in a context where I can have a lot of faith, so to speak, like where people will really believe that I can deliver the big numbers, and he's doing that at the moment. I wonder, did Rare Atom qualify for anything?
No, that's what point I was about to bring up. It inspires confidence that yeah, you can put up numbers in Asia, but they didn't win shit. That's the problem. They didn't win shit. They didn't even look that competitive. And to be honest, the problem is if you're Fuzi and Corey, going over to Rare Atom and putting in work is cool, and it might be good for your highlight reel. But if you're not able to outperform the Mongols, the Huns, Tyloo, or Lin Vision, or in this case any of them, it's pretty much just numbers for numbers' sake. So the limited amount of slots you have to go compete internationally, if you're an Asian team, is the problem. They can't use this to do much. Like, if you really wanted to work as an international project, you'd have to be winning these qualifiers, and they just haven't been able to. They've still got time. This team hasn't been together too long, and hopefully they don't get too homesick or annoyed at Red Bean being in everything, and they'll stay in Asia. But for me, it's a bit of a, yeah, very nice, good numbers, and Fuzi, you look honestly like you're smurfing. I bet you've never had this many people dry PQ in so many years. But it's not a... I think it's, for me, it's wait and see what they can achieve. If they can win a qualifier or two and actually compete internationally with this roster, I'll be more tuned in. But for now, they're just not that great a team in the Asian context.
They are just about missing out on pretty much all of these qualifiers, because they just missed out on the Asia RMR to Lin Vision and Tyloo. They were next best. They just about missed out on the Chengdu close qualifier after Wings Up. Then, of course, Wings Up didn't do anything. There was a close qualifier as well that they had to play, but Rare Atom weren't there. They missed out on Jönköping. Tyloo went there instead.
They didn't go to Challenger Atlanta either. They're not making it through these qualities, so that's the problem. If they can make it through one of these, and you'll get these guys internationally playing on their mixed Chinese team, cool. Yeah, we can really pay attention. But for now, it's annoying. It's just annoying. They are.
Good prospect. I think maybe a lot of people think that Fuzi is already a known quantity just because of that short time on NIP and then on Sangal, but like he's still only 21. Like there's room to work with here. Yeah.
But all right, let's get on to, I think, the most interesting part of this. I didn't think it'd take us 48 minutes to get to. And,
shit.
Yeah. We are talking about the member Q&A. So let's start with this question from Lafarga2330. This is a pretty good question. How important do you think talent is in CS as compared to practice? Could an average pro become the best by raw dedication, or is there something else which separates the great from the average? Quacke, I'm going to let you take the lead on this.
Yes, I think in the sense of what the question actually is, could an average pro become the best by raw dedication? I think no. I think the best player will always be a combination of talent and dedication. I think you'll see, because which sort of is a no-brainer. Like if you have only one of them, and either of them are good qualities to have, then of course having both would be the best. So, but I think talent can be important. You can get quite far by having either talent or either raw dedication. And the question is sort of how that career path is going to look. And I think there are two pretty good examples for that, in my opinion. So the first example is someone with just raw talent. And this is a Swedish player. It's Draken. I think a lot of players... Draken is... I think a lot of players will agree Draken is a very, very skilled AWPer. He's a very mechanically skilled player in general. Very much a good player with good foundations. The problem that I've always heard, especially I think it was in the reflections with either Freiburg or Exist, they started talking about why did Draken fail on NIP. He didn't show up for practice. He was late for practice. He felt like I can rely on solely my talent and still be the best player in the server. Turned out he couldn't. Consistency issues obviously came out of that, and that's sort of why he failed. Then you have someone with raw dedication who doesn't have too much talent. And I thought about this for a bit, and I think Stiko is a pretty good example for that, because Stiko, in terms of his skills, it's not really something that you can't learn. A lot of Stiko skills are things that you can learn with dedication and time and experience. What we talk about is like the more supportive element. It's more the team building elements. I think a lot of his qualities are like around his dynamic as a teammate, more so than someone who frags out. He's a good positions player. He's a good, all of these things. He's never carried a team to a good result in a big LAN in his entire career. And still, he has been like a relevant tier 1 player for well over half a decade at this point. So that's sort of the two ends of the spectrum, I feel like. There you have someone who the difference is, with raw talent, you can get something, but it's a gamble, and you don't really know exactly what you're going to get. With raw dedication, you know exactly what you're getting, and not a bit more. Like, no more. But you're going to get that every single time. And I think that's sort of the difference between... so I don't think the average pro could become the best just by showing up and doing their best. I think a combination is obviously the best in that sense. I think someone who, say, Monesi, he is one of the mechanically greatest players we have right now coming through. And he also plays Counter-Strike for 14 hours a day. So I think that is the best combination for being the best. But I think absolutely, if you just... raw dedication is definitely something you want to have rather than not. Because otherwise, you're just going to do well for a while and burn out. And you will... there's a limit to how far you can move on just talent alone. So I think talent is important, but arguably just dedication and like sticking at the grind is more important. And if you have both, then you're golden.
Yeah, that's pretty conclusively the discussion, but there's something I always find interesting when you hear this sort of conversation come up. And it's like, people forget that to be the average pro, to just be a guy who's on a tier 1 team, let alone... not even a tier 1 team, a guy who's on a team that is paid to play the game, it takes a certain minimum of both. There is no amount of hard work that will overcome having no wrist, and there's no amount of talent that can overcome never playing the game. So I think, for me, it's an odd one, because once you reach the level of average pro, there's not much you can do in terms of dedication that will magically make you a better player. You can only improve things like team play, communications, things that are never really a talent in most cases. And then when you're so talented that you've made it to tier 1, you've had to play so much Counter-Strike to get to that point. Again, all you could work on is other stuff. You can't really magically make yourself more talented either. So I think it's an odd discussion that essentially, when you come down to the conclusion, is everyone who's made it to a pro team has had to work hard. It's just, are they willing to maintain it and keep working hard once they make it to that level to then be on the best teams in the world? Because, yeah, just to have made it onto, say, if you're like a Draken type character, to make it onto like the 4th best Swedish team, you'd have need to have played 5,000 hours of Counter-Strike. There's no secret to it. And you'd have to have done it before the age of like 19. It's a fair amount of dedication required just to make it to that point. But then to keep working when it comes your full-time job, your life, to keep going is just the next step. So I think both are obviously required to be a great player. Impossible to be a great player without both, unless you're an IGL. Because if you're an IGL, you can just work as hard as possible, and unless we rebrand talent in this context to include intellect for the game, in which case then we're back to the start of like, there is like, if your natural understanding of the game isn't good enough, there's no amount of work you can do, even as an IGL, to just force your way up there. So yeah, both are always required. But I did once have an iconic quote where I can't remember who. There's no such thing as talent. There's confidence and belief. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. Now, all of you, go out there, believe real hard in yourself, and lose to me in matchmaking. Thank you.
Put that on a t-shirt.
There's no such thing as talent. It's just confidence.
I think that t-shirt probably already exists. To be honest, if you can believe you can do it, you can do it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer my version. But yeah, that's...
Merch!
Yeah, link in the comments. No,
Yeah.
we ain't got no merch. Fuck that. Alright, and our second question is from the fantastically named Zerp Herp Derp. But contrary to the name would indicate, an amazing question. If you could bring one player back to their prime, I'm assuming from the past, who would they be? And which team would you want them on? So, could do with an elaboration, I think, in the question, but basically, a player from the past, or I guess a player who, maybe isn't as relevant now, I'd guess, because it'd be a bit boring if you just went, oh yeah, Fallen in his prime. Take a player from who's probably no longer competing, bring them back to now in their prime, and which team would you put them on? And I've been thinking about this so much, and I think we both have come up with a couple options that we both think are amazing. So I'll let you go first. Who's your first thing that came to mind when you came to this question?
Okay, the first thing that came to my mind when I wanted to do this was obviously I wanted to pick a Swedish player. I think in a weird vein, I'm the Swedish representative of this podcast.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
And there are some names you could mention. You could mention like Prime Getright, but then my immediate first thought is that Getright was a great player, but his playstyle doesn't really fit in 2024 in a weird sense. You could bring back Prime Forest, and then the next question is always where do you put them? Because there's not really a Swedish team I would want to put either one. JW is alright. JW was the next one I was going to mention. Who legitimately I think Prime JW could be pretty interesting, but JW is already on a Swedish team, and he's already doing all right. Like I won't say it's Prime JW, but like he's doing pretty well. He's doing pretty well. Like he's doing all right. So, it's the hard thing about all of these were like where to put them, because it's boring to just put them on an international roster. Like I'd bring back Prime Dennis, and I put him on FaZe. Like that's kind of boring. But what I have gone for, I have gone for a proper pick, and this is not Swedish. It's someone who has retired quite early, actually. And I've gone for Prime Ethan, and I want to put him on Complexity. And this is my pick.
Bloody hell. Prime Ethan.
Prime Ethan, which is when EG were the #1 team in the world, him and Breezy. And my imagination is that he replaces probably Grim on Complexity. Not that Grim is bad, but he replaces Grim. And you have Ethan and Breezy as a duo that was a fucking nutcracker on that team. And now I'm thinking Ethan and Elige as sort of the prime duo on Complexity.
My God.
Because he retired. He retired in 2020. He got tired of playing Counter-Strike in North America.
He's a Valorant player now.
He's pretty bad in Valorant as well. But Prime Ethan, that was pretty fucking good in my opinion. He was great. He was doing a lot of work for the North American scene. And deservedly a top 20 player of 2019. Just a great duo player, and I kept thinking like, okay, so him and Breezy was great, but I don't want to put him back on NRG. Like Breezy's shit, so that would do fucking nothing. But him and Elige, I feel like that's the wet dream that people were talking about on HLTV forums in like the New Year's break between 2019 and 2020. It was like, oh, imagine Ethan and Elige on the same team. Like that was
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I did some weird thoughts. I thought some thoughts of going North American. I was thinking like, if I was looking at North American players, I was thinking more like someone like Swag. But if bringing him back to his prime means he's unbanned, bringing Swag in would be interesting to put him somewhere.
Yeah.
But
you said Prime Steel. Steel is a good pick.
Bring back Steel. Bring him back. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys who.
Tarek. Yeah.
Probably, I mean, not fuck off. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys who actually could have had great careers and been great players, and we're not fucking Tarek. But like, yeah, the way I approached this was, I looked for teams that are broken and thought, how can I fix them? Like, who can I bring out of the past to fix everyone? And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have you on my bingo card, Ethan, coming out of the fucking woodwork for an episode of Retake the Week. That's an idea.
I like Ethan. I thought about Kusta, but I just genuinely don't know if Prime Kusta ever existed. I think we never saw Prime Kusta.
You're trying to annoy me.
Yes.
Kusta.
You know, I have this like weird mental list of like underrated players who could have been great, but they never were. And it's like, it's Kusta, it's Gade, it's Hats, like it's these players.
Garbage.
They just never did anything. We never saw Prime Kusta. I can't mention that. Like Prime Kusta for me is a major champion, but like Prime Ethan, that's a player we genuinely saw. So he's also on that list.
Okay. Well, the first idea I had was I was like, okay, G2 need to be fixed. And I thought, you know who's an IGL who definitely won't shit the bed in the fragging?
Next
Give
up?
me Prime Angel.
Oh!
Give me Hellraiser's Angel from like 2016, 2017. This guy was a monster. I mean, those rosters were always fun because they did play a little more chaotically, a little more loose. But they had an IGL who would quite often top the score charts and lead them in impact, and he'd be like your true like lead from the front IGL in like the most stereotypical fashion that you never really see. It was Angel, so I want to bring Angel into G2 now. That was the first idea I had, right? I've had a better one since, but that was the first idea that came out of my head. Prime Angel, like 2017.
Prime Angel into G2.
Hell yeah, into G2. Fuck Hooksy. No offense, mate. You're just not anywhere near as good as this guy.
Oh, imagine
crazy numbers on LAN as well. Like he was doing this in real events against real opponents.
Imagine Angel playing with Simple and Baby Simple. What a career trajectory that would have been. Monacy is Baby Simple.
Right, okay. When did Angel play with Simple?
On Hellraisers. 122
this
maps.
Is like 2016? 2015?
It would have been 15-14 maybe even.
Yeah, because I was thinking of Angel when he's playing with like Woxic and all that. But yeah, that would have been that would be what he'd done then. Yeah, he played with both versions.
Yeah.
But then the idea I had next, I was like, hang on a second. I was thinking back to the greats of Counter. I was thinking like, could I fit Kogu somewhere? I started thinking about your Swedish players as well, because thinking about 1.6 greats, and I was like, hold on, I've forgotten this whole country. This country just east of Germany. They had this all-time great, and I mean one of the most goated players ever. His name is Neo. Do you know who Neo
I thought you were still talking about Kugo. I was like, this geography doesn't line up.
Like, what the fuck are you on about?
Yeah, I thought, what the fuck is this geography? How far east are you going?
Ents with Neo. I don't even care which one of these bounds on the rifles you cut. Pick one. Bring me Prime Neo. Prime Neo. The numbers are mind-boggling. I'm sure there's context for why they are, but even against the best teams, he was the best rifler in the world. Give me Prime Neo. Instead of, fuck it, pick one. Kylar, Goofy, Dika. Fuck it. No IGL. Let's go. I would still do it. Give me Neo on Ents. That was the other idea that came to mind. I think the G2 Angel one is better thought out, but bro, just give me Prime Neo. I don't give a shit. This guy was an absolute beast.
That is a good pick.
And that's why when you came out with Prime Ethan, I was like, Jesus Christ! If this was like one of those podcasts like basketball people do, where they like pick teams and then roast each other's teams, yo, you just got lit the fuck up. I don't know what the hell you were thinking about.
I like Ethan. What's wrong with Ethan? He's a good player. He was a good player.
His prime is like a 1.1 on an NA team. Like really?
His prime is 2019 when he was one of the 20 best players in the world, and that's not just HLTV being themselves. He was genuinely.
Yeah, he was number 20.
Yes, but that's the counts. It's like 111. He was 111 in 2019. 111. He was 109 in big events. How's that?
It's just so funny to me. That I was thinking like the greatest players of history. And you picked the 20th best player in 2019. That was just so you. I love it.
He's one of those. He's one of my great examples of like someone who was genuinely great and completely fell off and disappeared. And he was just banging. He was banging on NRG. He was absolutely banging.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt he was banging.
Him and Breezy as the entry duo. That was chef's kiss. That was It's a good.
He was entry. What? I don't even think you watched.
I mean, more than anyone else. But like,
he won the second most clutches of anyone in that year.
That whole team had like a 20% opening kill distribution across the board. But
right.
on T sides, but like.
Okay. That's a far out there pick, but man, that's a great question. It's what I'm going to keep thinking about, honestly. I'm just going to keep thinking about players like from the past I can bring forward.
Just now we're recording. You mentioned Hellraisers. I feel like Oscar would have been a good pick.
I mean, the problem is I've thought about a bunch of different AWPers. Which team am I randomly smashing him into? Which team am I putting him into, though? We don't lack good AWPers right now.
No, that's true.
IGLs, we lack like star riflers on a lot of teams, I think. Like Ents need a real star rifler.
How about like Prime Taco on some team?
Wow.
I'm thinking about like support players. Taco is like a prime. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was good for a few years, but the problem is then you have to find a Brazilian team, and the problem with Brazilian teams, I'm like, I need more than one move, man. I need more than one move.
Taco can play in English, surely.
Meh. Maybe. If you extend the rule to break language convention as well, then you can go absolutely ballistic with this one. You can go crazy. There's some mad moves.
Prime Sipnix. I'm trying to think if we're doing like
Prime
Zipex. How about support players?
Yeah, Prime Zipex could be put into a bunch of different teams.
I should put him in Astralis, but yeah.
That's the problem though. They have enough shift key holders already. Like they need. That's not exactly what they need, I don't think. I guess the one team I couldn't put him in. I was considering Zipex on Astralis, but I was like, who am I cutting? Yabi? I want to cut Stair, but I can't. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Prime. Who else is great? I'm trying to think about like who was great and then fell off, because that's sort of how I picked Ethan. Because he's this big, very high, and then so low he retired. It's weird. It's infuriating. It's almost infuriating that there's so many good picks. Prime Chris J.
Chris J is such a funny man. Like in terms of his career, like okay, let's have this conversation off camera. Let's not talk about this shit off camera because fucking hell, we could just go on for like 20 minutes reminiscing about random players at this point.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Ethan. I think Ethan is a great pick, honestly. I'll die on that hill.
Again, just the way I thought about the question, there was no opening for just.
He's a great player. He was a great player in his prime.
You're devaluing the word great. You're devaluing the word great. That's not great. Fuck me. This man's out here like Tsar Nicholas the Great. Which one? That doesn't matter. They're all great now. Just throw the word great on shit.
Oh man, if put Prime Ethan on complexity, they make top 4 in the Copenhagen Major. I swear it. I swear it by the old gods and the new, I swear it.
Yeah, then go out in groups at Jönköping. It's the same team. It's the same fucking team.
Yeah.
Alright, well, become a member if you want to take part in next week's Q&A and ask us questions that Quacke can answer incorrectly.
Leave your picks. You leave your picks in the comments for players you want to bring back.
Yeah, and none of you will pick Ethan. So, right.
If you pick Ethan, I don't know what I'll do, but that...
Crack it. Just crack it shit. Alright. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, because I am currently in the process of everything you see behind me moving into a completely different place. So hopefully we can do this next week. It may not be the case. I may be in a flat with no internet. I might be here, but there's nothing in the room. It's just me sat on the floor with a PC. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.